Thank you for coming. Name is Matty, Sallin. Project's called Family Hedge. All right. So my project is, I just want to tell you what it is at the very beginning. It's basically social software designed for your family, but it's a little bit more than that. It's also an experiment in network theory and an exercise in information visualization. This is what it looks like right now. This is the interface. And it's basically a new twist on traditional family trees and how they're laid out. And it's a visual interface used to work through social software. I'll get to more of that as I go on. So social software is basically, it's this kind of software which leverages the collaborative power of the internet to bring people together who have a kind of something in common. And it's the whole small world phenomenon where you meet someone and you discover that you have something in common, like a common affiliation or a common interest, and it makes the world a smaller place. And social software is designed to do that. And we've seen that in sites such as Friendster, where it brings people together based upon common friends and common acquaintances. And sites like They Rule do a similar type of thing by taking the board members of corporations in America and showing how they are linked to other boards. And it kind of gives you, all this gives you kind of a bird's eye view of these sort of invisible social networks that are going on. So what I'm focusing on is family here. And the idea is basically that we're all linked together through family, but there's a finite number of people you can keep in your head, about 40 or so. And so the way that people consider their family are sort of like spotlights in a darkened room. So if you consider your parents and your mother, the way that she conceives of your family is mostly people in her family and with a sprinkling of people from the father's side. And similarly, it's the same thing for the father. Mostly his people on his side of the family with a sprinkling of people from the mother's side. So combined, you kind of have, these are sort of the number of people that both the couple have in common as kind of understanding what their family is. But in actuality, it's much bigger than that. It's kind of like if those were two spotlights in a darkened room, if someone were to turn on the lights in the room would be incalculably large, filled with an equally incalculable number of people who are all related. So that's kind of an interesting thing for me, and I sought to investigate that. So how do you map out these kind of connections? Well, the traditional way is through a family tree. And this is a portrait by a picture by Norman Rockwell. And it pretty accurately shows what family trees are. They basically show your direct ancestors through your bloodline. And it's vertically oriented, going back in history from you to dead ancestors. And it's a tree formation. So what I'm interested in is doing something more like a hedge, which provides radial coverage. It doesn't link you just vertically to dead ancestors, but also spreads horizontally, including living relatives, and also including people who you're married to, who you are related to through marriage, not just through direct blood. Another thing about traditional family trees is that, well, actually, I'll get to that later. I'll go through family trees. So basically, the idea is that our families are infinite. I read something really interesting, which is that if you go back 33 generations, and what that means is like you to your parents is 2 people, to their parents is 4 people, and it goes exponentially. If you go back 33 generations, you find out that amongst all your great-grandparents and so on and so forth, there are more people 33 generations ago that you're related to than were on Earth 33 generations ago. So what that means is that we're all related to each other, and over multiple ways. Something that was in the news a few years ago was in the election in 2004, I think it was? No. Yeah, 2004. A noted genealogist discovered that John Kerry and George Bush were 9th cousins of each other. And they weren't just 9th cousins of each other, they were also 7th cousins and 11th cousins and 13th cousins through all these different channels. And I found that really interesting. So basically, I'm trying to chart all this. Now, there's already a lot of software out there. Genealogy is a really popular pursuit. In fact, it's actually considered to be the third most popular pursuit on the internet behind the twin vices of porn and gambling. So you can see there are a lot of different titles here. Some of these are standalone software. Some of them are websites and web applications. But I reviewed all of them, and they're all pretty much follow the same model, which is for the single enthusiast to research their family and to eventually publish that in some kind of way for other people to see, but not really to interact with, just to see. So it's kind of like a research tool. And I basically evaluated what they were like versus what I'm trying to create. As I said before, they're designed for the single enthusiast, as opposed to my Family Hedge is designed to be collaborative for everyone. And it's designed to be vertically oriented, while Family Hedge is designed to be radially. Family means blood versus family meaning blood and marriage. It also uses a pedigree visualization, which is a standard family tree visualization you saw earlier, as opposed to a hedge visualization, which I'm going to get to. And that's kind of like the core of this application that I'm building. The focus is on research in traditional applications versus the browsing and sharing that I'm trying to focus on. And basically, they're platform dependent, they're subscription based. I'm trying to make something which is universal and free, so on and so forth. So basically, to congeal the user experience that I'm looking to create is that it's going to be genealogy as social software rather than research tool. Focus is on data entry, presentation, and exploration. And I want to create a surfing experience so that you can kind of surf through your family in the same way that you can go onto Wikipedia and go through a variety and kind of start off with one interest on Wikipedia and then find a link which is interesting and go to that and then continue on. I want you to be able to do that with your family. So the traditional visualizations for this are a pedigree view, which is basically what you saw earlier. And what happens in here is that it's concerned with bloodlines. So notice there are no siblings here. This is just the same as the earlier one, but turned on its side. So what happens is that this person may have had a bunch of sisters and brothers, and they had children, but those people aren't included in traditional family trees. And so what they do nowadays is, whether it's a paper family tree or an online family tree, is that they have linked documents or linked windows, which I found kind of to be frustrating when it's a computer and you can actually use visualization to help with that kind of thing. Another thing which I'm trying to avoid, this is actually a family tree from the TV show Dynasty, the fictional family of the Carringtons and the Colbys. And basically there's so much, it's such a complex family because there's so much divorce and remarrying and all kinds of sin that it creates all these crossed lines, and it's really unmanageable to lay out. And so the crossed lines thing is something I'm going to focus on. So imagine that this is, imagine the pink dots are women and the blue dots are men, and these are just a bunch of pairings. So this is these are all little family units that are linked to each other. So if you pay attention to this guy right here, I'll show you what happens, what the whole crossed lines thing I'm trying to avoid in with my hedge. So basically this guy gets married. Well, actually they all get married. And this guy gets married, he gets a wife, and then they have children. Oops. And so children come over here. You can see it starts to get a little bit out of control. And then this guy's wife, this is our original guy, his wife, well, she has parents too. So those parents come up here. So this is just a really simple drawing of what happens when you try to include all these people instead of just following